60% of the time, it works every time.
Does thinking you're the last sane man on the face of the earth make you crazy?
You wanna hold her?
Yes.
Please her?
Yes.
Then you got to try a little tenderness.
It's the Al Travis Show, and we love having him on. He's John Hinderaker with the American Experiment. John, how are you today?
Doing just great, Al.
Good. Good day here. Just before you were on, Dr. Oz was on talking about coming to the state, the CMS coming to the state and trying to figure out what's going on with all our fraud, that sort of thing. And it was a fascinating interview for me. First off, he reminds me of you. Please, if you're going to watch it, don't take that wrong. Is that you guys do enough media, right? That there's no, I'm going to do radio today with the Al Travis Show. This guy, I think, could take a nap while doing it. You know, had the 2-minute break. I think he was so calm. I mean, I could really have a cigar with that guy. I could. I think he's really that guy. I liked him.
You know, he didn't he have a TV show? I mean, isn't that how he got well known? As he
got
a TV guy, right?
The producer knew him via Oprah Winfrey when he was like the doctor on the Oprah Winfrey show. Then he had his own show. He's written a bunch of books. I mean, the guy's been everywhere, man. But when he comes on and she wanted, can I say hi to him? I said, sure. She said, what a nice guy. He could not have been more pleasant. Again, I liken him to you in that this is nothing. You're going to give your opinion. You're going to say what you're going to say, and you're going to live with it. I really liked him. Honestly, I thought he was a good guy.
Peter Nelson is a policy fellow at American Experiment, works for us, specializing in healthcare. He was in the first Trump administration in CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Yep.
And then when Biden won, he came back and rejoined us for that term. But when Trump was elected for the second time, Peter again went to Washington. He again was selected to work at CMS, this time in a higher position. He reports directly now to Dr. Oz, and he loves him. He thinks Dr. Oz is great. He's a terrific boss. He's a good guy, an excellent administrator. Peter thinks very highly of him.
I don't want to give up too much on the green room stuff, but it's in fact kind of like you. He does his own stuff. I've done some pretty fancy people who their people get a hold of me 5 minutes ahead of time and make sure, and then they walk in and they do the thing. This was in Dr. Oz's living room. I'm pointing out that, it was in his living room. He sits down about 2 minutes before. And he goes, how's my background look? And I said, well, I should see. And there were 3 little red things over the top that looked like they were shooting into his head. I said, I don't know what those are. If you can move them. He gets up, he grabs, he goes, oh, they're these candy bars I'm getting my grandkids for Christmas. And he moved. I'm like, oh my God, are you just like normal guy or what? Anyway. Some of the stuff he said I thought was interesting, and I'd like to chat with you about it. We talked a little bit about the paper of note in Minnesota came out with a story last week that Donald Trump, of course, said it would be $1 billion in fraud in Minnesota, and their entire story, and this is a good-sized story, we don't think that's anywhere close. Oh, there's 150 here, and there's this, but it'll never reach a $1 billion. The next day, 9/11, some of the TV shows came out, and that's, well, probably right. It's closer to 800 million. John, are we seriously arguing whether it actually gets to 1 billion? This isn't the Jerry Lewis telethon, for heaven's sakes. This is money being stolen from us.
Well, Al, the person who knows is Joe Thompson, the assistant U.S. attorney who's prosecuted and investigated all these cases. Joe has publicly said more than once that these thefts amount to billions, plural, billions of dollars. He's the man who knows. It's the FBI and it's his staff at the U.S. Attorney's Office that have done the investigations, that have done the prosecutions. He's the one who knows that if he says it adds up to billions of dollars, that's the man we should listen to. The other thing that he says is we don't have the staff in the U.S. Attorney's Office to prosecute all these frauds. So they're going after the bigger fish. They're being selective in their prosecutions. But he's publicly said there's more money here that's never, nothing's going to be done about it because we don't have the manpower. That's how massive the frauds were. Too massive for the U.S. Attorney's Office to have the manpower to be able to prosecute them.
I've said this on this.
The Star Tribune is an absolutely pathetic organization. They're dwindled down. There's hardly anything left of that newspaper. People think about buying it occasionally, but it just isn't viable. And the idea that they are trying to carry water for Tim Walz at this point is just absolutely pathetic.
Well, and I'm under the impression something that one of his commissioners now runs the paper, and it's like, really,
Steve Grove is the publisher. Steve Grove went over to the Star Tribune to be the publisher of the newspaper from a position in Tim Walls's administration. I think he was the director of Deed. He's a former Walls staffer. But the Star Tribune has been carrying water for the DFLers for a long time. It didn't just start with Steve Grove.
Well, let me ask you this though. Is there any leg to stand on for the other side to say this is all retribution for Tim Walz running against Trump? Because not only do we have Dr. Oz coming with CMS, U.S. Treasury Secretary is coming out to find out if any of this money went to terrorist organizations. U.S. Small Business Administration is going to check, find out what happened to all the loans that came out during COVID. And U.S. Department of Transportation is coming out and saying all your CDL loans, or CDL licenses might be, a third of those might be corrupt. It seems like we're being attacked on, but when I was talking to my friend, I said, if there's nothing to look at, nothing to see here, then there's nothing here. But it sure seems like every time they bring it up, I didn't know half the CDL licenses in Minnesota went to people that weren't from Minnesota. You know what I'm saying?
Well, this fraud and the scandals surrounding the various frauds have been around long before Tim Walz ran for vice president. Bill Glad has been writing about this since January of 2022. It'll be 4 years next month. And, there have been a lot of frauds in Minnesota. People talk about feeding our future, but there were frauds before that. There were frauds in childcare going back a decade or more.
Yeah.
There are frauds in the autism program, frauds in the Medicaid program where they were advising people on how to get housing. And it turned out $dollars last year. There was not a single dollar that was legitimate. Every single dollar that program paid out was fraudulent, and they shut it down. So, when you see this multiplicity of frauds and frankly of crime across a broad range of government agencies, it's no wonder that people want to investigate and say, well, what else is going on there?
See, but it's almost the lunacy of it. You giggle out of here. You giggled as you're saying, almost the entire $100 million went to fraud.
No, not almost, Al. Not almost. But the entire, there was not a single legitimate dollar paid out.
I brought it up with Dr. Oz. I'm going to keep saying I brought it up with Dr. Oz. I brought up Dr. Oz. This autism thing. You didn't have to have autism. You didn't have to have a doctor say you had autism. You didn't have to be a guy who could fix autism. You didn't have to have a teacher's license, a medical license. Your parents just had to say, oh, by the way, you'll give me a kickback for how much if I say my kid's got autism, and they're making money. I said, Dr. Oz, who set this up? This had Minnesota might have wanted it, and then they go to the CMS and said, hey, look at this brilliant program we've got. It starts at $3 million. It's at $400 million now. How did they approve the, okay, let's call it, autism, and now you can get paid? And he went through it. He says, yes, there was a time when they just didn't want anybody to complain about racism or this group or that group hates us. Just send them the money. And that was literally how that got set up. No one cared at the time. No, this is the administration before the current one, but you get my point. It's like,
So this is the Walz administration asking the Biden administration for money, and they don't care on either end of that deal.
And that was he said. He said, basically, if no one cares, they just don't want anybody yelling and screaming, you didn't take care of us, send them money. And it was $3 million to start, and it's at $4 million. Are they complaining yet? Nope. Okay, keep it going. It was just the way it ran. I got to go to break. And if you don't mind, and we didn't talk about this, I'd like to get ahead of fraud. The next one's coming. It's roaring at us. It's 2 weeks away. Can we talk about Minnesota paid family leave? Yeah. And here you go again. We're going to laugh at the ridiculousness of what's going to happen, but we'll do that right after this with John Hinderaker from the American Experiment.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, you're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts. But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
You need a friend at the Capitol who knows how to get things done.
And you're in luck, because that's exactly who we are, your friends at the Capitol, and we deliver results.
At Momentum Advocacy, we bring decades of experience in lobbying, public affairs, and crisis communications.
From local nonprofits to national corporations, we help you move policy, manage your media, and make your voice heard.
We're not just seasoned pros, we're essential partners.
Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more at momentum-advocacy.com.
Amongst friends, the Al Travis Show. Nothing but talk.
I've got him, John Hinderaker, and president of the American Experiment. And he's got a point, and I kind of went past it. I'm sorry. If you want to catch up on all this, if you want to get the latest in how this is working, go to theamericanexperiment.org and take a look. You guys have been on top of the fraud since I started this 5 years ago, and I know you were on it before that. This is where you get the information, and I just didn't bring it up, and I'm sorry. Sir, here's the train wreck that's coming. You know how I don't know, on your Facebook post, I don't know if you see all these ice storms that showed up, and then it's just video after video of cars sliding into other cars, and you can't not watch. It's like, oh, here's another one, and then it comes sliding in. That's probably just my algorithm. I'm weird. But you can't stop not watching the car accident. Minnesota Paid Family Leave is going to be that, and it's starting in 3 weeks. And I'm wondering if there's any chance enough pressure is being put on walls to put a 6 months pause on it till we can fix some things. Here's my point. I didn't know this, but this is true. There's no limit on the number of people that can care for one person. Al's mom gets sick, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. My 6 brothers and sisters and I can all get paid family leave to go take care of her. No limit on how many can go. If you had a child in 2025, get out of here. Go visit the kid. You can sign up in 2026. We're sorry we didn't start this earlier. You can have more than one job, quit one job to do this, to take paid family leave, and keep the other one, John. I don't see any way there's going to be a problem with this program, except in every way possible.
Yeah, so my organization, American Experiment, has been writing about this program ever since it was first proposed. There are people in the organization who are really experts on it, on what it says, what it does, how it's supposed to work, what the problems are. There's an article about it in the current issue of Thinking Minnesota, I believe.
Yep.
And so if we could get John Phelan on here, one of our economists, and he can give you chapter and verse on all the problems in the bill. But it's going to be a train wreck. They've made estimates about how much it's going to cost. There's a new tax, a new payroll tax that's supposed to cover the cost of paid family leave. They've already admitted that their initial estimates were way off, and before it even goes into effect, it's not going to be enough. They're going to have to increase it again. And there's no definition. If you have paid family leave, first question any sensible person would ask is, well, what's family?
Yeah.
Well, there's no definition. There's no definition. So, if you say, gee, my grandmother's best friend's cat died and my grandmother's best friend is really distraught, I need to go stay with her for a month. Does that qualify? I guess it does. I mean, the whole thing is ill-defined. Anybody just signs up for it, and then the state notifies your employer. The employer gets very little notice, and the state notifies the employer. Well, you have an employee who's going to leave for what's the maximum time? Do you remember?
20 weeks.
20 weeks, so 5 months or so. You have an employee that's going to leave for 5 months. Oh, well, I need that employee. I've got a production line or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have 4 guys on it. He's one of them.
Yeah.
What do I do for 4 months, 5 months? Well, I got to hire a replacement. Well, when the guy is done with his paid family leave, you got to take him back. You don't have a choice in the matter. You got to take him back. So you got to try to find a guy to fill in for 4 or 5 months while your employee is gone, who's then willing to leave at the end of that time. And, it is an absolute train wreck. And I've heard more small business owners say about this program more than anything else, this is it. I cannot run a company in Minnesota if this is the law here. I'm going to have to leave the state.
And if you hired the extra guy, he fills in for 4 or 5 months, then the other guy comes back, you fire the guy. Sorry, this job was only for 4 to 5 months. That guy now gets unemployment insurance, which the company has to pay. And every time you fire somebody, your unemployment insurance goes up. You're in a treadmill. The other thing I found out is the type of care doesn't matter either. I go with the idea that my mother gets sick and my 6 brothers and sisters all decide to help her out. Nothing says we have to show up and be by mom's side for any number of hours a day. It could be I text her every day to see if she's doing okay. That's all you've got to do to make this pay off.
Basically, Al, this is one of those Minnesota programs where if you want money, just sign up and you get money. There's no controls, there's no restraint. It's the honor system, basically. It's the honor system. And
we've seen how that works in this state, sir. This is the point. Dr. Oz said it. We just don't want to offend anybody. So when you have a paid family leave, you said, okay, first question is what's family? I don't want to have to tell you what family means because I might offend someone whose next door neighbor was treating her like her mother or like, we go down this road if we can offend no one, so we'll just pay everyone. This is a train wreck, sir. Is there a chance? Back to my original question to you. Governor Wall suspended now that housing stabilization thing because 100% of it was fraudulent. Could he not literally put a pause on this and say, let's get the House and Senate together in February and put some guardrails up on this bad boy?
I don't know. I don't know what power the governor has in that regard. I don't know what provisions there may be in the bill that could allow for its temporary suspension. I don't know the answer to that. The tax increase for this program was one of the elements of the omnibus bill that Judge Castro in St. Paul has said was unconstitutional, violated the single subject clause of the Minnesota Constitution, which it clearly did. They called it an omnibus bill, which gives
that
away
tells you it's not one subject.
and so one thing that I don't know whether anybody has brought a lawsuit following up on Castro's original decision on this portion of the bill.
Okay.
But if the tax increase that was in that portion of the bill gets shot down, then they kind of have to go back to the drawing board because they've admitted that they don't have enough money to pay for this program. And so maybe that would prompt the legislature to revisit it, maybe even just repeal it. That'd be fantastic, Yeah. But no, this paid family leave program it's a total disaster.
John, I always appreciate you coming to the program. You are just a great friend of the show. A lot of this information you want to keep up. Go to AmericanExperiment.org. Thank you, sir. I do appreciate you coming in.
Always great to be with you, Al.
John Hinderaker on the Al Travis Show.
Think about it.